Boy, Wednesday night at 8:30 comes up fast. It's the live Panther-Lair Show here on a Wednesday night on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We get rolling here midweek. The week goes in such interesting sort of waves, of Monday and Tuesday are just kind of a drag. Wednesday, you start seeing that finish line in sight. We get this live show here on Wednesday night. I just have one more morning pit to tape for the week. That's the mailbag, which we'll do tomorrow, and those are always fun to do. And there really is. It's been called Hump Day forever, and it really is getting over the hump of Wednesdays. And what better way to do it than to talk here on the live Panther-Lair Show on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Jim Hammett, I think he'll be joining us in a few minutes. We'll welcome him in to talk a little Pitt sports. And, of course, what we always like to do is hear from you, the Pitt fans. So jump in the chat screen there on the right side of the screen. Post your comments, your questions, anything that's on your mind about Pitt sports. We'd love to hear from you and what you're thinking about tonight. And you can join the conversation. We'll read your comments and answer your questions, or at least as many as we can, or as many as we're inclined to field. And it's always fun. It makes for a good back and forth. We enjoy that. Like I always say, make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I feel like even though it's May 7th, we've got a lot to talk about on the transfer front, recruiting front, some scheduling things, which tomorrow's morning Pitt is about that. But there's some interesting scheduling stuff happening. The schedule structure for the ACC and basketball is changing. Pitt's got some spots to fill on the football schedule, but that might start looking a little bit different over the next few years. Some interesting times on that front. And then there's always the ever-present questions about NIL and revenue sharing and transfer portal and recruiting and all those different things. So jump in the conversation here on the live Panther-Lair Show, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe. And then, of course, check out the website, Panther-Lair.com. It's a place you can get all the Pitt sports coverage, football, basketball, recruiting, transfer portal, everything going on in the world of Pitt sports. It's right there at Panther-Lair.com and message boards to talk with other Pitt fans all day, every day. Pitt fans are hanging out, talking about Pitt sports on the message boards, Panther-Lair.com. And of course, if you go there, you can talk with me all the time, and you can talk with our good friend Jim Hammett, who we welcome in now. James, there you are. And the message boards, it's always an interesting place. And the good thing, Jim, is like, there's Pitt stuff. When Pitt stuff happens, people go to the message boards to talk about it. Or if there's something like George Pickens getting traded, Pitt fans go to the message boards and talk about it. It's sort of a fun community. Nobody ever talks on the message boards, though, Jim, about the Oxford comma. And I only bring this up. My son in 6th grade, he had his open house tonight. And in the English writing room, they were taking a poll of parents of team Oxford comma, yes or no. And the yeses outweigh the nos by far. Everybody, if people don't know, the Oxford commas, if you have 3 items, eating carrots, celery, and onions, you would put a comma after carrots and put a comma after celery. And I don't know about you, Jim. I guess I should read your copy a little bit closer. It's like a journalistic thing, right, to not use the Oxford comma. And I actually got into a heated debate about this with another dad at open house tonight. We were sort of yelling over the English teacher who was trying to interject, but we didn't really have anything we didn't want to hear what she had to say. We were arguing with each other. And, his contention was, there are no more space constraints. So there's no point not to use that extra comma. What do you use the extra comma, Jim? Do you use the Oxford comma?
I do use the extra comma.
Oh, wait. Why can't I hear you, Jim?
I don't know.
Oh, now I can hear you. Sorry. Maybe my volume was off. Go ahead.
No, I think I'm pretty sure I do. I guess I should be more consistent in knowing how I write. But I believe I do. I think that was something like when I worked at the newspaper in Johnstown. It was just like one of those things like the editor was like, you got to do this. I was like, okay.
You have to use it? Yeah, you do use it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just opened your article about Rep Morris, the offensive line prospect at Don Bosco Prep, and you list his offers or the schools he's in contact with. Virginia Tech, Rutgers, Penn State, Coastal Carolina, James Madison, Army, and Navy. So you do use it. So I guess we don't have consistency across the Panther-Lair.com platform, but I guess it's a relic of a bygone era. At least you don't use two spaces after periods, because that became a big debate as well. Which I feel like you do that if you're in 7th grade. You use two spaces after a period, and then beyond that, you only use one space.
Yeah, because if you have to write like a 2-page paper, you're just trying to buy
right.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I said. I wonder what Chat GPT and AI do with this. I keep reading things about how basically everyone in college is cheating right now with Chat GPT writing their essays. I wonder if Chat GPT uses probably uses the Oxford comma, but I wonder if it uses two spaces after a period. I don't know. I've never really experimented with that. Have you?
No, I don't want to get too close to it, because I guess it's like that software is trying to replace us. So like I don't I don't really like it.
Yeah. I think it's flawed in so many ways, and I'll keep saying that because I don't want it to take my job. But and then it hits a little too close to home when we start thinking about, wow, if a computer can do this, maybe we're just useless. But they won't get the hot takes. I mean, I think it's still at least a few years away from Chat GPT and AI being able to generate its own hot takes. So I guess we just have to turn up the heat on our takes and come with some real fire. And there's nothing more exciting than schedule talk, Jim. The ACC announcing today that the basketball schedule in conference is going to drop from 20 games to 18 games. Ostensibly so that conference teams will schedule 2 more good games in the non-conference and thus improve their resume and their net ranking and their chances of the NCAA tournament. Do you think all 18 teams in the league will schedule appropriately? Or do you think most will add maybe one good other opponent and one mid-major or low major?
I mean, I think you could already sense that, like, I think lately, like, Duke's been, like, scheduling some tougher games. Like, I think they just agreed to play Michigan, like, at Madison Square Garden. And, like, the teams you would expect to do it are probably going to do it. But, like, I don't, like, what's the big deal if Virginia Tech schedules another power conference game or not? I mean, I think going into a season, you kind of know if you're going to be on that cut line. You know if you're going to be, okay, like, I should schedule a little bit harder. And I think that's what Pitt did this past year. It's like, let's get that game with Ohio State because we think it might mean something. Obviously, it didn't, but like, the thought process was right. And like at the time, it actually carried their, net ranking for a long time. So I don't know. I mean, I think every school is going to be a little bit different with it. But I guess everyone's kind of been arguing about like how conference play is going to be. It's because now there's just going to be one team you're just not going to play.
Yeah. That'll be weird. I don't know. Like, what's the alternative though? Because you'll have your every year, home and home opponent. For Pitt, that's Syracuse. Boston College has Notre Dame, Duke, and Carolina, and then you'll get one other home and home. Is that right?
Yes. So
and then you'll play the other 15 teams. No, 14 teams once. You'll play 14 teams once, you'll play 2 teams twice, and then there's you. And then one team you don't play. I don't know if there is a better solution. I guess the question there is like, does it matter if you play another team home and home? Like if you have your annual protected rival or whatever you want to call it for Pitt, Syracuse, and so on and so forth, what would be better, having another team you see twice in a season or getting a chance to play every other team in the league?
I mean, it does feel a little strategic just because it's like, okay, if they're going to like rotate it year to year, it's like, okay, Duke and Carolina are going to play twice a year, but like, if Duke's going to be good or Carolina's going to be good and Virginia's going to probably try to create more matchups and better TV and, chances for these, the top tier teams to play each other. So I don't know if it probably in the long run, it's better for a top 10, a top tier team like Duke to play Louisville twice than just, to have an extra game against SMU. Like that doesn't matter. Like, I think that's the thought process behind it, but I still think it's weird to there's just going to be one team and you're just not going to see them. And I don't know. I mean, if you're going to go through the trouble of having an 18-team conference and, you have the space to play that many games in basketball, you should probably play everyone.
Well, I think they'll probably rotate through who you play twice, right? Like outside of you have one team you're always going to play twice, but then for your other home and home in each season, I would think year to year they would rotate through. So like Duke will only see Louisville Duke will only face Louisville twice in a season, once every like 14 years or something like that.
See, like I thought it would be more like the ACC schedule makers are going to make sure. Like I don't know if it's going to be a true rotation or they're just going to try to make the best possible schedule for the teams they think are going to be the best.
Yeah. I mean, like, we always used to joke about like the football thing that like Pitt didn't play Wake Forest until it had been in the conference for 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, or Pitt didn't have a home game against Florida State until, what was it, 2023? When they finally played Florida State at home. They've been in the conference, or no, they played them in 2013, obviously. But like there was, all kinds of like long stretches where you just never saw these teams. And in basketball, if they go, or with this model that they're talking about, I mean, assuming the model changes again at some point in the next 10 years, there will be teams you just never see, that just never, it'll work out that you just won't ever play some of these teams, or you won't ever see them at home or something. I don't know. It's weird. It's awkward, but it's what you get when you have these, like you said, gigantic conferences. I think there's a couple other that play 18 games, right? The SEC and the Big 12, I want to say, play 18 games, and then the Big East and the Big 10 play 20.
Something I saw, like of the 5 leagues, like 3 are at 18 and 2 are at 20.
Yeah, I think that's what the breakdown is. So I'm curious what the Big 12 and SEC. You don't know their schedule formats, do you?
Not offhand.
Yeah, it's always kind of remarkable too. We look at like the college football schedules, and you can see. I mean, Clemson and Notre Dame, and we'll talk about this more in a second. But they just agreed to a 12-year series that starts in 2027 or something like that, right? And so you've got that where you're literally scheduling 14 years down the road, 13 years down the road. And college basketball, today's May 7th, and I think we know of one non-conference game for Pitt in the season that starts 5 months from now, 6 months from now, right? The Ohio State game.
Well, I guess, like, I think they're still playing West Virginia, so I think we know
Okay,
that.
so we have two. And we know they'll get an SEC team, but we don't know who, right? And we don't know if they'll play in like a tournament or so. I mean, we assume they'll play in some kind of event, right? But we don't know what that is. Nothing's been in it. So it is funny. And then we definitely don't know all the, SUNY Binghamtons and, Albany's and, Jackson States and all those different places that they're inevitably going to add to the schedule. We don't know any of those. And the schedule, the season's 5 months away. So I didn't look back. Do you recall like when we usually see some of that stuff?
I feel like the conference, I feel like even like going into the fall, like you don't know the order in which the conference games you're going to play. Like I think the non-conference schedule will come out like sometime in May or June, but like you don't know who, like the order you're going to play the conference teams until like September. And that's literally a month and a half before the season starts. It's really weird. But yeah, I've never figured that out about basketball. I don't know what the big secret is. I mean, like ESPN just loads these games like for 5 months. Like why do you need to wait a month before the season to announce the whole basketball schedule? So I don't know the two differences. And like you can look and who Pitt's going to play in 2031. So in football, but basketball, you don't know who they're going to play in 3 months. So
yeah. I was trying to figure out why we weren't getting much in the way of chats, but I realized I had it disabled. So I apologize to everybody who's been watching and wanting to chat. I realized I was like, what? Nobody's saying anything. Usually somebody chimes in by now, and then I clicked onto the thing and saw that it was I had set it to be that this live stream is made for kids. You can choose like age restrictions, and I had said it was good for kids, and apparently that disables the chat. So if you would like to chat, please do now. The chat is open. Everybody can jump in there, and share your comments and questions about the basketball schedule and kind of what's happening there. I got to be honest though, like as far as scheduling news this week, Jim, I think the Clemson Notre Dame news is more interesting. I'm going to write about it in the 321 column on Friday. And like, first of all, did you know, in case anybody doesn't know, Clemson scheduled its own 12-game series with Notre Dame, independent of the ACC, just went out and did it. Notre Dame is sort of I don't even know if it's contractually obligated. They have an agreement with the ACC to play 5 ACC teams every year. They actually have 6 this year. I think they added a game against Stanford to sort of make up for some games Stanford already had scheduled. But anyway, so Clemson goes out and schedules this 12-game series with Notre Dame. And my first reaction was like, you can do that? Like, you're an ACC team and you can just go make your own schedule with Notre Dame? I did not know that was possible, and I didn't think that was possible. If you had asked me on Sunday, hey, do you think an ACC team could do this? I would have said no. Wouldn't that have been, would that have been your assumption? Or would you assume that if Pitt wanted and could convince Notre Dame to do it, they would have been able to go out and sign their own deal with the Irish?
I mean, I think the big thing is that like the Clemson game now counts as part of their 1 of 5 games. And like, I guess like if you would have said like, oh, Clemson outside of the, the 5 ACC games, like they set up the series with Notre Dame, I could have bought that. I mean, that would have made sense. But like the fact that they're just kind of jumping in there and they're just going to, take a few people's rotations with Notre Dame. And I mean, obviously the big thing with that is Notre Dame's a draw. Notre Dame is, every game they play is on national TV. Every game they play is in a sold out stadium. And for a lot of ACC schools, that's a big deal whenever Notre Dame comes to town. Cause face it, like Notre Dame doesn't always go to Durham, North Carolina or Winston-Salem. Like that's a big deal when they show up. So it's unique that Clemson just kind of said, you know what? We're going to play Notre Dame ourselves and you guys can fight for the other 4 games those years. So it's an interesting thing. And obviously it's with the mindset that, we're the two of the bigger brands in the ACC umbrella. And we just want to play each other every year to, strengthen our own schedules. And we don't really care about the rest of you. And I mean, Clemson has pretty much been saying for a long time, they don't really care about the rest of the ACC. So, I mean, I guess that's just them doing it out loud now.
Well, and they'll get more money. I mean, under this new arrangement that's been announced, if you have better TV rating, you'll get a higher percentage of the ACC's TV check. So if you can get games against Notre Dame, you're going to get more TV money and you're going to get more ticket sales, like you just said. And the thing, too, is like this whole where these games are scheduled is 2027 to 2038, I think it is. Like Notre Dame's 5 ACC games are already on the books for those seasons. Like the ACC has already laid out who Notre Dame is going to play every one of those years. And I think that's as far as they've gotten is 2038. And so now if you look at like, footballschedules.com or some of these sites that track future schedules, they've got Notre Dame down with 6 ACC opponents each of those years. That's not going to happen. Like that's not going to last. And they actually haven't accounted for SMU, Stanford, or Cal yet. Like Cal doesn't have any games scheduled against Notre Dame yet. Stanford has one this year. SMU might have one at some point down the road. So it's, somewhere in there, the ACC was going to have to rework these things to get games for Stanford, Cal, and SMU. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that, Clemson's already in there for 12 games. Miami, I think, is already scheduled for 7 games over the next however many 14 seasons or whatever it is through 2038. FSU has 5. Those teams are going to get more. And I think the ACC even said this. It's not like they're sneaking around, that they were like, yeah, we're going to try and get some more Notre Dame games for Miami, Florida State, Clemson. It was the concession, I guess, to get them to shut up and drop some of the litigation. It was part of like a settlement or something like that. And so they're bowing down to these schools and they're kind of screwing everyone else over in the process, which is not a surprise. It's what we would kind of expect. But like, where are you going to be in 2038 or earlier when Clemson walks away from this league? And you've made all these concessions to them. You've allowed them to go outside your scheduling structure and just make their own deals with Notre Dame. And they're still going to walk away. And Miami's still going to walk away. And Florida State is still going to walk away. I'm not saying you tell them like, forget you're still going to play by our rules. But I don't know where the balance is, Jim. I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know how you balance giving them some extra with also not letting them walk all over you.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is, but like right now, it just makes like the ACC office, Jim Phillips, kind of look weak, and it's just like, okay, like these schools are calling the shots, but like if you're the ACC in your position right now, where you have 3 to 4 schools like in open, willing to leave if they could, what do you do? What do you tell them? And not only that, they're your biggest properties. Like they're the reason like your conference is still at the table, so to speak, right now. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, it stinks that, not everyone's going to get as many Notre Dame games and have that primetime opportunity. But, like, at the same time, it's like, I don't know, they Clemson and Notre Dame games, like, that's kind of what pays the bills for the conference almost.
Pitt actually has 6 Notre Dame games scheduled between now and 2038, which is this like third most behind, Clemson now, because Clemson has 12, but Miami has 7, and then Pitt was 6. And, it might just be like when we're looking at this, other teams had Notre Dame last year. Maybe that bumps the numbers up. But like you said, I mean, it's not only that these teams, Clemson, Miami, and FSU, are willing to leave. Like they were actively trying to leave. The reality is every one of these teams in the conference is willing to walk away when the opportunity presents itself. Pitt would walk away if the opportunity presented itself. But I think Virginia and Virginia Tech would walk away if they could. It's just that the only schools that actually have a chance to do it are Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. I think it's every man for themselves out here. And the long-term future of this sport is going to be these schools sort of operating independently. And so I can't sit back and be like sentimental, like, oh, I wish Clemson would show solidarity. Solidarity's for the birds, right? I mean, you got to do for yourself and take care of yourself, and good luck on that front. All right. There are some comments that came in here. Swim Boyd says, in this era of the transfer portal and general managers, does long-term stability with coaches matter as much, or does it matter more? What do you think, Jim?
I don't. I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's always going to be about building a roster. And, like, we say this all the time about college basketball. It's like, you're not building a program anymore. You're building a team for the very next season. So, like, I can get a sense that, maybe coaching doesn't matter as much, like long-term coaching, like guys staying around 10, 12 years. And yeah, there's probably some, credence to that, I would think, but I don't know. I mean, this is all still new. Like, I don't know if it's going to make sense for schools to switch around and try to freshen things up and, kind of go with more of a pro model. I mean, you don't see as many NFL coaches outside of, the one next door to Pitt, stay in a place for a very long time. I mean, it's a transient job. I mean, you move around. If things don't work out, then you get fired and you start over. So I don't know if it's going to go to a more pro model where you don't need that long-term coach, that figurehead coach like you did in college. Maybe that's kind of more of a thing of the past, and it's kind of already been trending in that direction.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I go back and forth because, I don't know. I mostly agree with what you're saying, but I think it is important because I think there are going to be schools like Pitt that part of their ability to hold on to players and ability to build a roster that they sustain to a certain extent is going to be based on the coaching stability. That if coaches are in and out every 2 years or something like that, then you're less likely to hold on to players that you're able to hold on to. I mean, obviously you're never going to hold on to everybody, but some of the guys that Pitt has retained over the last few years, if you're changing coaches every 2 years or 3 years, you probably don't hold on to those guys. If a brand new staff comes in after the 2023 season, they probably don't keep Gavin Bartholomew and Rodney Hammett and Kenny Johnson, going into 2024. Those guys probably bail. So I think stability is important in that regard. But I don't know. I don't know.
Like, yeah, maybe like a school at like Pitt's level where it's like you kind of need that stability. You kind of need that, okay, guys might be willing to take that hometown discount. But like you look at the top of the sport, does it really matter if Marcus Freeman stays at Notre Dame long term? Like, they have the money to buy him out. And it's like, essentially, like I was talking about NFL model, it's like they can just do a rebuild. It's like, okay, let's just rebuild the roster and the coaching staff, and we're able to do it because we can eat the money. But if you're Pitt, you can't do that all the time. You might need that coach to, like, okay, these guys need to, I have a chance to keep them here, and maybe the next coach doesn't, like you were saying with some of those players. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just kind of the disparity in the sport right now. It's like certain schools can probably get away with a little bit more than others.
Pitt Beat WVU says a lot of the YouTuber schedule prediction videos have been coming out. It's Pitt's been getting a lot of 9-win season predictions for the first time. Are we that good? I haven't seen videos. I honestly don't know enough about Pitt's opponents yet to really know if I would predict 9 wins. Like, this feels like talent-wise an 8-win team, just because Pitt generally, to me, feels talent-wise like an 8-win team. And so whether they can be 9 wins or 10 wins or 7 wins or 6 wins is going to depend in some part on the other teams on their schedule. I just don't know. Like, I don't know what to expect out of some of these teams that Pitt is going to face this season. So it's tough for me to make a prediction. Do you have a win prediction so far? Do you feel like this is a 9-win team?
I'm with you. Like, I don't know if I could go down the schedule and just say things, but like in the middle of last season, I kind of always thought like this year should be the better year. Like they built on some things, but like it's going to be the second year of Eli Holstein, the second year of Cade Bell, and like I think things should just go a little bit more smoothly. So like I thought like last year should be a building year, and this is the type of year where I don't know if they're going to contend for the ACC, but like in theory, like they should be trying to win games and playing meaningful games in October and November. I think that's what this team's capable of. So if that means 8 or 9 wins or even more, I mean, sure. I think they'll win more than 7. So we'll go there.
I had an interesting question in the mailbag. I think it was last week. It might have been the week before. Roster to roster comparison, position group to position group comparison. And obviously we have a lot more information about last year's team than we do about this year's team. But just as you sit here and look at it, quarterback, better now or better last season?
Well, last year at this time, we thought Nate Yarnell was going to start. So
that's the tricky thing. Like I don't even know which way is better to ask it. Like May 7th, 2025 perception of the quarterback room versus May 7th, 2024, or May 7th, 2025 perception of the quarterback room versus what we saw out of the quarterbacks last year. And I think if it's that second one, which is probably the best way to go about it, I feel like they're better. Like Eli Holstein's a year older. He's got a year of experience. Mason Heinschel, by all accounts, is better than any backup they had last year. You know what I mean? Like with all the rave reviews that are coming out of spring camp. So it seems like, and then you bring in Cole Gonzalez, an experienced transfer who knows this offense. So I would say, like, if we're going to keep track, like, I think that's +1 for the quarterbacks. What about running backs? So last year you had Rodney Hammond, but he only played like 7 snaps or something like that because he missed half the season. Des Reed comes back. Didn't really add any experienced guys. The running backs better this year than they were last year.
Maybe if we're just going like that, like, because like this year at this time, again, we didn't know Des Reed was Des Reed.
Right.
But I don't know, but maybe a push with the running backs. Like I don't know if they got like, because like, I mean, we all loved ourselves some Rodney Hammond and all believed that he would be a good player at some point, but that just never really happened, and he had a couple good games here and there, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like Joel Goff can kind of do anything that he was able to do.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have a +1 on the quarterbacks, push on the running backs. Wide receivers, I think the advantage is 2024 there because Konate Mumfield. There's not at this point a Konate Mumfield on this roster.
Right. Yeah. Like he was more of a proven commodity. Like, I mean, I think some of us believe Kenny Johnson can get to that point, but like at least going into last year, like you knew you had Konate.
All right. So that's a -1. So now we're even overall, right? +1 quarterbacks, push on the running backs, -1 on the wide receivers. What about tight ends? I think it's a -1.
Yeah, it's definitely a minus. Like,
right.
They only have 3 tight ends right now. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, exactly. No, they got a transfer.
Oh yeah, there you go. Still a -1. So we're -1 overall. Offensive line, though, I mean, it's not fair. This should count for more than just a +1. But we'll just go +1, push, or -1. Offensive line, I think, is a +1. I think they look better now than they were last year. They look better now than I thought they were going to be last year at this time, and I think they look better now than they ended up being. I think the top 5 looks better, and I think the depth looks better. I give the offensive line a +1. You?
I agree, and I like kind of going back to something I said earlier. I think it's just that second year of this offense. Like I think everyone's kind of moving in the same direction a little bit more this year, and I think the line's going to benefit from that a lot.
All right. So the offense, we're coming out dead even. +1 on the quarterbacks and offensive line, which is arguably more important. Again, if we were doing this weighted, it would, I think the offense would come out a few points ahead, but +1 for each of those, -1 for the wide receivers and tight ends, push on the running back. Defensive end, I think it's a +1 here. I think the 3 transfers they brought in, even if it's May perception versus May perception, I feel better about these transfers than I felt about last year's transfers, and certainly better about this year's transfers than what last year's transfers ended up doing. So I have a +1 on the defensive ends. What about you?
I might be at a push, but again, a lot of the defensive end optimism is we still need to see it. I mean, I do think it's a bonus that at least we know Jimmy Scott can play, be a starter in the ACC and have some productivity. And I don't think they really had that last year. So maybe you did talk me into a +1, but again, with Spires and some of those guys, I still need to see it.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, Spires, Zielinski, and Moore have all played defensive end in a 4-3 defensive scheme, which you couldn't say about, any of the 3 guys they brought in as transfers last year. I mean, Chief Borders was standing up. Nate Matlack was in a 3-4, and David Ojebwe didn't play. So if nothing else, these guys at least should be a better fit for the defense than last year's were. I'm giving them a +1. I'm giving the defensive tackles a +1 just on the experience factor. They didn't bring anybody in, but Francis Brew is a sophomore. Isaiah Neal's a redshirt sophomore. Jasir Whittington's a redshirt freshman. They're all a year older. Sean Fitzsimmons might finally get a full healthy season. So I'm going a +1 there. You going there? Or are you staying in a push?
Yeah, no arguments there. I've kind of been talking them up since last offseason. I'm I like this group. I think they're going to eventually figure it out. And I think at times last year they did. So I think they're going to carry that over.
Linebackers are tricky. They're awesome. But, and I think we can probably assume natural progression for Biles and Lovelace and Lewis. But then, you're replacing Brandon George. I mean, you're replacing Brandon George essentially with Braylon Lovelace. But in terms of filling out your 4 or 5 linebackers, whereas you had Lovelace, Lewis, Biles with Brandon George and Keith Thompson, now you have Lovelace, Lewis, Biles with Jeremiah Marcelin and Cam Lindsey. I think the ceiling is higher with Lindsey and Marcelin than it was for George and Thompson. I don't know. I kind of feel like it might be a push, but it's still a really good, talented, productive push. So I don't know. You go push or +1?
I think I'll go push, but I am optimistic about Jeremiah Marcelin. I think he's actually going to be a really good player. I don't know if he's going to supplant anyone as a starter this year, but the way they talked about him during spring ball, it kind of seems like he's going to be on the field quite a bit. But it's tough to say a redshirt freshman like him is going to equal 6-year senior 24-year-old Brandon George. So push.
All right, corners. I don't even know what to do here. You got Battle and Lynham back. You lost Gandy. Shadarian Harrison was the most improved defensive player in spring. You added Rashawn Murray as a transfer.
Zion Ferguson.
Ferguson push?
I'd say about a push. I mean, Gandy was a good player. I think he's a little bit better than some gave him credit for, but not to the point where him being out is a huge detriment to the position. If that makes sense.
All right. I'll take a push on that. I might take a push on the safeties. It's hard. Donovan McMillan had 220 some tackles over the last 2 seasons. Cruz Brookins has 220 some takeaways over the last 4 training camps. I'm probably giving Brookins and Jesse Anderson and Kavir Baines Marquez too much credit by saying it's only a push, or maybe I'm just disrespecting Donovan McMillan and PJ O'Brien by saying it's a push. Maybe it should be. I mean, it's possible that it could be a -1 and still be really good. I don't know. What are you leaning on that one?
I mean, going into it right now, I would say it's a minus, but with the chance to be as good or better. I mean, just the way things work with Corey Sanders and the safeties, usually by midseason they figure something out. And I'm just kind of banking on that. Javon McIntyre's played a ton of football. Cruz Brookins is a dude they're super excited about. If they end up being a really good pairing by October, it's not going to surprise anyone. So right now, just because I think Donovan McMillan was really good, I would say -1, but that's a position I would expect to grow.
Yeah, it's a weak -1. So defense, then we got +1 for each of the position groups up front. and a -1 on the safeties. So the whole team. Oh wait, kicker. I think it's a -1. You mean like replacing Ben Sauls. So we're dead even here. And again, some of it should be weighted a little bit more than others. A -1 at kicker is not exactly the same as a +1 on the offensive line. I mean, like that +1 on the offensive line is going to make a much bigger impact than the -1 at kicker. But if we're just going +1, -1, or push, we're dead even on this. So I don't know how that plays into that. I'm of the mind that the +1 on the offensive line carries enough weight that it could make a difference of, a couple of wins. So if we're talking about a 9-win prediction, I could see it because then the offensive line will be that much better. But does Eli Holstein stay healthy? Do they miss a field goal that costs them a game? Does the -1 at wide receiver cost them? Or are they unable to get the passing game going because the receivers just aren't that good? So it ends up being a push, but I don't know. It's a push with caveats. Doing that little exercise there, Jim, does that change anything you thought or think about a win prediction for this team?
Not really. I still think I can talk myself into 8-4 and 9-3 on a good day. I still kind of think that's what this team is.
Yeah, I buy it. Josh Newark says, clickbait or legit concern, Allen Green's name being linked to Michigan State. So I haven't seen this. As we were talking, I sort of did a quick search on Twitter, and the only thing I really see related to Allen Green and Michigan State is that when Michigan State hired an AD back in 2021, he was linked to the job back then. Interviewed for it or was somehow connected with it. So inevitably, when a job comes open again, some of those names will get brought up again. Have you seen anything like this? Does this mean anything to you, Jim?
No, this is the first I'm seeing of Allen Green being linked to Michigan State.
Yeah, and I haven't found anything more conclusive than tweets from 2021 and 2022. So I'm not sure I would say it's that there's an actual linkage there, but we've been around long enough. Nothing should be a surprise if something like that were to happen. But I think Heather Lyke would get the job, right? I mean, wasn't she a top candidate for it probably back in 2021 or so?
Yeah, she was always linked to the Big Ten jobs.
Yeah. Adam Vinchik wants to know, what percentage do you give that Pitt lands the guy from Australia? That would be Roman Siulepa. What do you think there, Jim?
Percentage? I mean, I don't know if I have an exact percentage. I mean, it's still kind of the same thing. There's confidence that he's going to end up at Pitt. I think it's trending in that direction, but it's hard to get a read. We haven't talked to the guy, and he's the whole other side of the world. I mean, it's really tough to get a good read on the situation. I mean, I think we've been talking about him since March. I think that's we first started finding out about this guy. So we've been on Roman Siulepa watch since March 25th, and not much has changed other than we know Pitt's recruiting him. We know there's interest. We know that last summer he played on a Australian basketball team with Lamar Patterson, and that kind of got the connection going. And we know Jeff and Jason Capel follow him on Instagram, and we know Pitt just got another player from Australia. So there's a lot of things pointing in the direction, I guess, but nothing new that necessarily than what we've been saying, I guess, is pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, the time change is definitely unique. I just looked it up. I don't know where he is in Australia, but it could be anywhere from 8 a.m. to noon right now where he is. I remember when I did a pre-arrival interview with Sam Vanderhaar, the punter, and I interviewed him at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and he's sitting there in his car, and it's sunny out. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, this is just weird. It's unsettling to I go to Utah and it screws me up because I'm 2 hours behind or 3 hours behind. I can't imagine, having that 12-hour time difference. And that certainly complicates things as well. But yeah, like you said, I mean, from the start, we had an inkling that he was probably, that there was a good chance of him coming here, and we're just kind of been waiting for that. Pitchag wants to know what number is Roman going to wear. And I tried to think of a good like Roman numeral joke, like he'll wear an X or something like that, but I don't think that joke is going to be all that great. Position by position, Job Poetics wants to know, what about the punter? It's the same guy. So, like, I don't think anything's changed with Caleb Junko. Do you?
No.
Yeah, it's just
nobody in that building ever like speaks poorly of him. Like if you ask like the coaches, they're like, oh, he's a great leg, but then we watch the games and see what happens. So I don't know. I mean, his numbers did go up last year, and like even like all the metrics, like Pitt was better against like punt return defense and everything like that. So like all those things that like Jacob Bernowski was supposed to do to help special teams, like yardage wise, like they all happened, but like I don't know. Like I think they could probably have like a punter with a stronger leg at some point
for more consistency. I mean, like his leg is strong. He's remarkably inconsistent. But I don't feel like, I think there's been like one or two punter offers in the portal over the last 2 years, but I don't think it's not like they really like went really hard after punters. So they are seemingly content with it. I think they're okay with what it is. And so fine, just don't punt, score touchdowns, right?
That's the other play.
Just don't punt. Commitment this week. You talked to him. He committed on Monday. Is it Demetus?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how he pronounces it? Demetus McCrae, wide receiver from the Orlando area. You'll be shocked to know he's 6 foot and 180 pounds is what he's listed at. So he's probably like 5'11", 5'10", somewhere around there. Basically the same height, weight, speed combination that so many of these Pitt recruits and transfers have been over the last 2 years. Second wide receiver commitment in the 2026 class, joining another guy from Florida who is short and fast. And as you pointed out, Jim, I think they still have like 8 other wide receivers slated to come in on official visits. First of all, what do you think about Demetus McCrae, the 2026 wide receiver commitment? And then, is this going to be another big class of wide receivers for Pitt this year?
I like McCrae's game. I was watching his huddle, and even just like some of the things he was saying to me in the interview, it's he's like, yeah, Kate, Coach Bell, he says like I could be like their Jamar Chase. Like I know I'm not tall, but I can line up on the outside. And I watched his film, and like, yeah, like he can go up and get it. And like he kind of reminds me of a guy they had committed last year that flipped over to Missouri, Demarion Folks, just like kind of like a fluid, just like a good route runner, 6 foot. Like he looks bigger than like Poppy and like Sincere Lee, at least like more well put together, like a little more like that 180 pounds, like it might be a little bit more. So I think he can hold up and probably play on the outside. So I like the commitment, but like, yeah, you brought up those 6 or 8 receivers. Like those are guys just from Florida. Like I think they have like 12 guys like coming in for official visits. I think there's another 2 or 3 from Texas. They have a receiver from Mississippi, Zechariah Jenkins, coming in for an official. So they're casting a wide net. It's funny. Like I like at Pro Day, like I bumped into Kate Bell. I'm like, dude, like you're keeping me on my toes. Like, you guys offer a lot of people, and he got a laugh out of that. But like, yeah, like they are just with receivers and running backs and like guys that are fast, the guys that they like. They throw out offers like crazy. So it does seem like they're going for a big wide receiver class.
Which would be another one. They signed 3 receivers last year. They brought in 3 receiver transfers this year. I think they're currently projected to have 10 scholarship receivers. And I think 7 of them were brought in by this staff between the 3 freshmen and the 3 transfers. And then, only 2 of this year's 3 transfers are still here. But then Raphael Williams and Sincere Lee, like they've rebuilt this group. And to some extent they had to. You could go back to the 2021 recruiting class. I don't think anybody's left from that group. 2022, nobody's left from there. 2023, they signed 4 receivers. Only 2 of those guys are left. 2024, they signed 2 receivers. Only 1 of them is left. And some of this is natural. You're going to have it, guys going to the transfer portal and that kind of thing. But they've had to rebuild the receiver room, and I think they've done it. I don't know, like, I don't know if there was a point over the past like 4 years where I was like, man, their receiver recruiting stinks. Like, do you remember ever like thinking that, like, boy, it is just really not good how they're recruiting receivers right now?
I never really got that vibe, and like even like something like the 2023 class, like the guys like who was that, like Lamar Seymour and Zion
Yeah,
Fowler,
and
and
Kenny
like I was,
Johnson.
yeah,
Yeah,
like I was kind of high on like a lot of them. Like I was like they're gonna hit on at least three of them, and
yeah.
one of them like transferred right away, and he was like, is he Polk?
Izzy Polk. He was like a late ad who they
But
basically
I
found
kind of
him
liked
because they
him
were
though.
recruiting the quarterback.
Yeah, so like there wasn't a point where I thought they weren't doing a good job at receiver, but like I guess with Cade Bell and JJ Laster, it's like, all right, we're gonna go get our guys, and like they haven't, hesitated at all. Like they are jumping for the guys they want to get, and whether it's in the portal, these like big recruiting classes. So they already have two receivers committed. I don't know, it kind of seems like they're going for like 4 or 5, which again is crazy, but that's just kind of where the numbers are right now.
And some of it too, if you sign 4 or 5 receivers, or you get commitments from 4 or 5 receivers, maybe you end up signing 3 or 4 of them. I mean, like you mentioned, Folks last year, and there was another guy, another receiver who was committed, who they kind of walked. It was Khalil Sterling.
Oh
They kind of
yeah,
like walked away from, sort of, or not walked away, but I mean, they kind of split with him late in the recruiting process. So they had 5 receivers committed at one point, and
yeah.
then and ended up with, or yeah, because Tony Kinsler and Bryce Yates and was Sinquan Smith a late ad? No,
These
Cameron
are
Sapp was the late ad.
Cameron Sapp.
Saquon
Yeah,
Smith is a so they added him late. So at one point they had 4 receivers committed. They had Yates, Kinsler, Folks, and Sterling. Folks went to, where'd you say he ended up? Mississippi State or something?
Missouri.
Missouri. Okay. Folks ended up in Missouri. They kind of walked out on Sterling, held on to Yates and Kinsler, and added Cameron Sapp to that group kind of late in the process. But they are, I mean, we've joked about it many times. Like they are all kind of the same sort of guy, right? Pretty short, but pretty fast. Like I'm sure the coaches would tell you there's little differences between all these guys, but I think if you lined them up, they would all kind of look the same, wouldn't they?
I would agree with that. And yeah, it was funny. We were talking about like they walked away from Sterling. I think he ended up at Western Carolina, which they would probably be looking for the exact same type of player. So who knows? You keep him down on the farm, and maybe in a couple years when he's looking to transfer. But like no, yeah, they all do profile the same ways. And I think like of the 7 or 8 guys they have for official visits, I think like 1 or 2 of like they do have a couple bigger ones. I think that Zachariah Jenkins is a little bit bigger. They got involved with that Virginia Tech commitment like right at spring ball. I forget his name, Carter
Yeah.
something, and he
Yeah.
was taller. So like they a couple, every once in a while they might concede and go for a 6'2" receiver, but not a lot.
Well, they brought in Duce Span and they tried to get Hakeem Williams. So they're not completely opposed to it. But what do you think, Span? We've probably talked about this at different points. I just can't get a good feel for what he's going to do this year. Maybe it's because they didn't have a guy like him last year, a guy with his size. They seem to rave about him in spring camp. It seems like he had a really good camp, but he hasn't done hardly anything in his college career. Like what are your expectations for what Duce Span does? And like, how does he fit in to the rotation? If you were going to number like 1 through 5, like Kenny Johnson's number 1, where does it go after that? And where's Duce Span fit in?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like I just assumed like it would be like Poppy and Sincerely, assuming he's like good to go by September. Like I thought they would be like 2 and 3, and I mean I guess Span's like 4 or 5. I don't know if one of the freshmen's going to come up. I don't know if Zion Fowler's going to come up. I mean I think there's still a lot to be determined with the wide receivers. Maybe they have a better grasp on it, but like for me coming out of spring camp, it's like, yeah, I know Kenny Johnson's good. I like some of the freshmen, but like I don't know the pecking order. Like it seems like there's a lot of guys that all could make a case to get onto the field. So I don't know if that means it's going to be very highly competitive in fall camp. It probably will be, but like they always talk about, it's like, yeah, we have, we can spread the ball around. We have 4 or 5 receivers on the field a lot. So I don't know, but I don't. I'm with you. I don't have a good read on Span just because like I get Dejon Reynolds was like the only tall receiver they had last year, and he had what, like 3 catches?
He didn't get a target until the West Virginia game, and he made the most of it. It was a huge
Big
catch,
target,
but
yeah.
that was yeah, it's funny. And then like, you know, Blue Hicks, like I kind of had I'd set my expectations low for him, and I know we don't ever want to overreact to a spring game, but the big play he made in the spring game, I was like, oh, okay, wait, there might be actually something this guy can do. He might actually be able to contribute. Adam Vinchik says, I wish Duce Span could be above means. And I saw this comment come in, and I did think about it for a second. I'm like, what do you mean, like above means? And I guess you mean like a productive downfield target, but that was a different offense. You know, like that was a different offense that Bub Means played in, and I don't know. Maybe it's because of the players they had that we didn't see that type of attack last year. And maybe if they have a Duce Span or something like that, they might attack more vertically and go for that kind of thing. But I just don't know if it's really a like focal point of this offense other than, you know, once or twice per game or something like that. So I don't know. This is what we're saying. Like, I don't know what his role is. I don't know how he fits in. And I don't know. I don't know how he's going to contribute. This receiving core, like I'll be honest, like for me, they have a lot to prove. Like not like they're sitting back saying like, "Hey, I you know gotta show Chris and Jim what we can do." But like, I don't know, this group has like something to prove because I got a lot of questions. You know, and like we talk about Kenny Johnson and how big it is to keep him and hold on to him, but we also talk about how like he hasn't done that much. You know, and now he's played 2 years and I can talk about how he should have gotten a lot more targets last year and all that kind of stuff, but like he hasn't done that much. Like this needs to be a breakout year for him. They're counting on him to be the wide receiver 1, and he really hasn't been that so far. So even like your best guy, your number 1 guy, I think there's pretty big questions around him. You know, Raphael Williams kind of fell off as the season went on. Sensor Lee's coming back from an injury. Duce Span, it just has, what has he caught? Like 6 passes in his college career. Like, you know, Blue Hicks has like 16 catches in his college career or something like that. Yates and Kinsler and Sapp are freshmen. Like, you know, Zion Fowlerell and Tyreek Robinson. Like, I don't know. There's so many questions about this group that, you know, like we said, when we were doing the position comparison, like they're a -1 right now compared to last year, because at least last year you knew what you were getting out of Kanate. It's a group with a lot of question marks this season.
I like the makeup of them though, and like when I watch them run around at practice, it's a good looking group and it's athletic and it's definitely mirrors like what they want and what they've targeted in recruiting. But yeah, they just need to go out and do it. And like I think I'm higher on Kenny Johnson than a lot of people. Like I know that like 2-week flirtation. Not a lot of like flattering things were said about Kenny when everyone thought he was leaving. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's staying. He is our number 1 receiver. So I don't know, but like during that little like 1-week period when it, you know, everyone thought he was leaving, everyone was you know gearing up and ready to pile on, like, oh, good riddance, blah blah blah, and it's like now all of a sudden it's like, oh, man, he's still with us. So yeah, that was funny to watch in real time, but I don't know. I'm pretty high on Kenny Johnson. I think he can have a breakout year. I think that was like my one prediction in the 3-2-1 column on Friday, like last week. So I'm high on him. I like the look of the receivers, but yeah, they're very unproven. And I think fall camp's going to be interesting with that group because there's snaps up for grabs.
Yeah, for sure. Paul Sebastian says, when the decision gets settled, when the house case gets settled, what does Pitt do to consistently raise the funds every year? If a part of the fund raising includes a cost on fans and alumni, how long can Pitt do this till pushback? I mean, this is a $20.5 million question. Somehow you're going to have to come up with that money. I imagine Pitt is going to give as much revenue sharing as they're allowed to do, but then they got to find a way to pay it. And, you know, I think we've talked about this a lot. I don't know what it is, but I mean, people presumably smarter than us who are definitely getting paid more than us have to figure that out. And I think there's a lot of different ways you can nickel and dime your way through it. I don't know if nickel and diming it gets you all the way to 20.5 though. Adding a $10 surcharge onto season tickets, how much does that add, right? Like, let's say optimistically you sell, what would be an optimistic number of season tickets in a non-West Virginia, non-Penn State year, Jim? 30,000, 20,000? let's say, I mean, I think they sell like 12,000 student tickets, I want to say. I think
think
the
that sounds
student
right. Yeah.
season ticket. So, and let's call it, let's get, let's say they sell 40,000 season ticket packages. And I don't think that's the case, but let's say they do. $10 surcharge on that. What's that? $400,000? Like, you're nickel and diming because you still need $20.1 million to get up to your rev share. Like, you're not going to get it all out of that. At some point, you're going to need a giant influx of cash. And I don't know how that money comes. I don't know how you get it. I don't know how you ask for it. I don't know who you ask for it. And I don't know how you get it year after year after year. And so, like, Paul's question here, how do they do it? How do they raise the money? And how long can they ask the fans for it before they get pushback? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is. And it's one of the big concerns because there are schools that will come up with it and they will not even hesitate to come up with it. And I think it's going to be tougher for teams like Pitt or for schools like Pitt, who I do think will try to go to the full 20.5, but good luck finding it. Cause I don't know. I mean, do you have a solution, Jim? I don't.
Join a conference that makes more money.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's kind of I see why Clemson wants to do that.
Yes. Well, they'll get extra money from playing Notre Dame in 2035, so they'll be able to make up some of that money. But 2035, scheduling a series through 2038, as if any of us has any idea what this is going to look like in 2 years, let alone 12. Pippi WVU says Desmond Reed's been getting great reviews so far. He's the 7th and 5th best running back in the country on different platforms coming into the season. I did see something about that. I think Pitt might have even put it on like their website or something that some guy said he's the 5th best running back in the country or something.
I think it was Greg McElroy, the old
Is that who it was? Oh, okay.
Does he work for ESPN?
Was he the guy that Brent Musburger, he went over and kissed his girlfriend after the game, and Brent Musburger was like, "That's why you go be the quarterback at Alabama."
But then he made it. Yeah, it was, but then he made it weird because they kept showing her on camera, and every time Brett just couldn't help himself or something.
I would say the first comment made it weird. I don't think it got weird after that. I think it got weird from Brent Musburger's very first comment.
Oh yeah.
So, what were we saying? See, we got distracted by Greg McElroy's girlfriend.
Brent Musburger.
I don't even remember what she looks like. I remember what Brent Musburger looks like, but not
still alive?
That girl. In my mind.
Yeah,
I think he is.
Yeah, I feel like I would have. No, but yeah, Desmond Reed is very good. We've been talking about that for a while now. He was an All-American last year. He's a returning All-American. It's not a surprise that a lot of people are high on him. I know there was something that came out the top 10 draft prospects at running backs, and he wasn't on it. And I saw him quote tweeted and just said, "Okay." So he's aware of that kind of stuff, and I don't know. He's really good. Pitt has they at least have one really good player on offense to center their whole team around, and he's a good place to start.
Brent Musburger is currently 85 years old. He has a birthday coming up, actually, May 26th. So he was born May 26th, 1939. So there you go. He's, I don't think he's active any longer. Vegas Stats and Information Network. He's the lead broadcaster and managing editor. He's also a member of the Montana Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame because he was raised in Billings, Montana. So
I know.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff in Brent Musburger's Wikipedia page. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, I don't know what I mean, we all talk about Pitt's got an All-American back at running back, and it's true he was an All-American, but not at running back, So dynamic playmaker, the most exciting player on the team, the best, probably the best overall player on the team last year. Well, right up there with the other All-American, the best offensive player on the team last year. But he's got, he's got to show he can stay healthy. He's got to show he can be durable. He's got to show he can go through a full season and be the top back. See if there's anything else here. Charles Tomarello says Mark Cuban needs to flood the Pitt Shark Tank with NIL money. Yeah, I mean, you need a sugar daddy. You need somebody to come through and.
Well, he's already saving the Pirates, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he was going to buy the Pirates. I forgot about that. Well, there's always David Tepper, right? Got to go back to Tepper. All right, that's I think that's all for us here, Jim. I'm going to talk more about this scheduling stuff on tomorrow's morning Pitt, and I'm going to write about Clemson Notre Dame on Friday's 3-2-1 column. So this was a good way to hash out some ideas. I appreciate you being the sounding board for us tonight, there, James. All right, Jim, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks everybody who tuned in for the live stream tonight. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Check out the website Panther-Lair.com. All right, thanks again for tuning in, all the comments and questions and everything. Have a good rest of your Wednesday night. We will catch up with you tomorrow morning for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.